Oklahoma State's great.
You know Dana because he was your coach at one point in 2010. Tell me about, as you go to face Dana now, he's on the other team, coaching the other team. How would you expect his team to respond after they've kind of had some struggles offensively?
Coach Hogerson, he's a pretty good coach. I know he can, pretty much overcome that. West Virginia is a pretty good team. Their defense is really nice, but this isn't really about them. Again, I say that all the time. It's always about us. The way we prepare and just to go out there and take care of business. So,
Jeremy, does it surprise you that he's leaning on his run game? More than he ever has.
He's a great coach. His strongest weapon, he'll lean on. So if that is his run game, then they're going to run the ball. If it's his pass game, then they're going to pass the ball. So, but our defense, they're really good. I think they're going to go out there and take care of business.
You guys are 15 of 15 in the red zone this year with 15 touchdowns. Why are you guys able to have that type of success once you get inside of 20?
Everybody wants to score, and so when you have that, we're going to work that much harder just to get in the end zone. And really anybody can score on our offense just because of the talent that we have. JW's a great quarterback, great leader. So he's going to make sure that we get in there.
Is there anything that's been tweaked with Coach Yurcich as far as approaching things inside the 20, or does it just kind of happen that way?
I really couldn't tell you. It's just a week-to-week thing, from what we do. So I really just don't know. I pretty much just have to wait till that game week to figure everything out.
You mentioned JW and his leadership and all this in the red zone. Is he audibling in and out of things that have helped you guys be even more effective in the red zone?
He's a great quarterback. Whatever he sees, he's gonna do the play that we're supposed to do. Or if he sees something else, he's not gonna probably gonna run that play. But he's great. He knows exactly what he's doing. He watches a lot of film. Studies the opponent a lot. So when we get down to the red zone, it's pretty much easy for him, for us to get it in.
Jeremy, two-part question. You were talking about how everybody wants to score. You got to score a bunch in the Lamar game. Talk about the pride you have in your ability to get short yards, short situations, and goal line, and then flip it and tell me how much you're looking forward to getting into some wide open spaces and breaking some big ones.
I can't do it, without the O-line, without J-Dub, and really the coaches who, call the plays. My job is just to go out there and perform to the best of my ability. And so, again, I can't do it without those guys. So whenever I get in the end zone, all the credit to them.
What about breaking long ones, getting into some open space?
Again, it's really up to the O-line. If they make those big holes, then I'm just going to run through it and hopefully I make somebody miss and score more touchdowns.
When's the last time somebody mentioned to you that you guys are the Big 12 favorites?
You hear it all the time, but, without us, not executing, not doing the little things right, if we don't do that, then, all those, all the talk really doesn't matter to us, So we pretty much just have to go out there and do what we know how to do. And that's just, play football, take it one game at a time, one play at a time. If something bad happens, you just got to throw it away and keep moving on.
You've been around this program a long time, but nobody on this team has ever been to Morgantown, West Virginia. So just what are you expecting out of that trip?
I keep hearing a lot of crazy stories, about the fans and stuff. So I'm ready just to go down there and see, if everything, is true. So.
Craziest story you've heard?
Well, I'm not gonna say that, but I heard that they're pretty loud, and that they really try to get in your heads, but we're not gonna let that happen. So.
Jeremy, what is JW like off the field? I've heard that he's actually pretty goofy.
Yeah, he is pretty goofy. He's a great guy. You can tell he loves football a lot just because he stays up all night playing it. That's probably why he's just so good at it. So, he's a great guy, great competitor on and off the field, whatever he does. And, I'm pretty much happy that, I get to spend this time with him.
Does it make you laugh?
Sometimes. He's not really that funny to me, but nah, just funny. He's pretty funny.
With Big 12 play starting now, do you feel like this is really the start of the season? I mean, you haven't accomplished anything yet?
No, actually, the start of the season was when we played at Mississippi State. We got to take it a game at a time. Even though this is Big 12 play, we just still got to do the little things right. And, again, West Virginia is a pretty good team, but, it's all about us. We just got to take care of business.
Jeremy, Dana was only here for a year, if that. In your mind, what's the impact that he left on this program?
Pretty much just to keep competing. You got to do the little things right. And pretty much, his motto was move fast. But now our motto now is move even faster. So, he pretty much got it going with the pace that we have. And we just got to keep going off that.
I know you're not inclined to answer questions like this because you're very humble, but if I were to ask you, give me some of Jeremy Smith's greatest hits. In other words, your favorite runs in your career. Can you rip off a few of those?
I really only have one, and that was just the year we played Texas at home, and I think it went for 70-something yards. And, that was just this big old hole that the line left. So, I just darted right through it and scored. So
Texas would be on your list of top 10, I'm sure, a couple of times.
Oh, yeah. It was a great experience just to go down there and get a win at their home. Texas is a pretty great program. So anytime you can beat those guys is a great accomplishment.
You mentioned beating Texas at Texas. You guys have had some pretty good road success. What is it about this team that in recent years has helped you guys to be able to win on the road?
Well, Coach Gundy, I remember a long time ago, he kind of brought up 300. How they had to face, all those, different, guys. And that's pretty much how it is for us. We're not traveling with much. So we all have to stick together and be just one sound team. And, when we go down there and do that, we take care of, things we're supposed to take care of, we can win and beat anybody.
It wasn't too long ago that this program had its struggles on the road. It seemed to turn a corner maybe when you were a freshman or a sophomore. Did you sense older guys sort of, that was a different mentality, or the talent improved and it was just a foregone conclusion you were going to win on the road? Do you remember the change?
Before I even got here, I knew what Coach Gundy was going to bring to the table. And Oklahoma State has always been my favorite, school. But, as soon as I got here, I see that, this whole team is just going to turn around and we're going to get all type of, wins against big programs, small programs. It really doesn't matter. We're going to compete the same way. And, I think the whole mindset, with just going on the road is it really doesn't matter where you play. Football is football. So, you just pretty much have to go out there and play like if you were at home, Even when you're away, there's not going to be that many people there for you, but you still have those guys that you practice with every day, that you bleed and sweat with every day. And, you just got to go out there and compete, with those guys,
Did you do anything to escape from football this past weekend, or did you find yourself at a high school football game and watching some college games?
I was actually supposed to go to a high school game, but I didn't. I ended up just chilling with my girl, and, we took some pictures on Saturday and just chilled on Friday. So, oh, yeah.
Do you know the width of a football field?
What is it, 53? I don't know. I just know it changes from college to the pros. I don't know.
Anything else for Jeremy before we bring David Walsh and Coach Yurcich?
Thanks, Jeremy.
If you could please just address who it is that you're speaking to on the questions, so that I know which one is there.
Coach, this is as close as you get to going home this year, West Virginia. You grew up in that neck of the woods, sort of. Can you talk about the demand you've had maybe for a coach, give me some tickets, or got some family coming or anything?
Yeah, you kind of hear from some folks you haven't heard from in a while. But it's a good thing. It's going to be
really excited for my father who gets to come to a game. It's going to be his first Oklahoma State game, so I'm really excited for him. He's taking care of his mother at home, so he doesn't have the ability to get out much. So when he does, it's a good deal, and he's got a sitter for grandma, and he's going to come enjoy the game, so I'm excited for him.
You were watching Oklahoma State game films even before you got here. Will it be interesting to be on the same field with the guy who pretty much installed this offense at this university?
Sure. At the same time, it's really about two great programs going at each other on Saturday, and that's really what the focus is, our team against their team.
J-Dub, kind of the same question I asked Jeremy about the red zone success. Why do you think you guys have been able to go 15 of 15 with 15 touchdowns so far this season?
I think it's just with all the depth we have at every position. Whoever's going to have the ball in their hands, they're going to make plays, and makes it easy on us as long as we can get the ball into their hands, and good things will happen. And that's what we've been able to do so far. So we're going to hope to continue with that.
Mike's kind of follow up on that. How much does it help to have a running quarterback in that type of situation?
Well, not every coordinator, not every play caller is going to call great plays, and sometimes they cover you. And to have an athlete back there to make stuff happen when things aren't always designed as they're supposed to be is good. It's good flexibility. He makes you look good a lot of times.
Has that been a focus, the red zone production, just going back to the spring and fall camp and going through the season, just really making sure you're effective once you get in that swing?
Absolutely.
Talk about JW's ability to recognize defenses and get in and out of plays.
Well, I think our whole mentality is to go fast so we don't have to get in and out of plays too much. There has been occurrences where he has checked us into the correct play. I think he's growing at that. I think that's a process, and it's something I have to do a better job of teaching him. But at the same time, we don't want to focus on, okay, if they're in this, we want to check to that. If they're in that, we want to check this. We want to go and do what we do, and they have to defend it.
JW, would you refer to this offense up to this point as more efficient or explosive?
I think it's a little both. I think we've been 15 of 15 in the red zone, and that's pretty efficient. But at the same time, we've had a lot of explosive plays and plays that have ignited the offense. When there's times where the offense is sputtering a little bit, not being able to roll. We've had a lot of explosive plays to get us on track and get us rolling. So I think we've had a little bit of both, which is it's a blessing to be able to say that.
JW, all the players who've been up there so far have been asked what they do this weekend to get away from football. It would be stupid, wouldn't it, to ask you what you did to get away from football, because you ran to football this weekend, right? I mean, you were all around the game. You watched. You were probably your dad's game, whatever.
No, actually, I did not go home this weekend. No, because he had a bye week this week, so I didn't go home. But I definitely watched a lot of college football, and we don't have very many chances to have a full Saturday to watch all the games on TV, and so I definitely took advantage of that.
JW, did one of the games you watched, was it the West Virginia Maryland game, or do you prefer to wait until you see the game film rather than watch it on television?
Yeah, well, I watched the West Virginia game, but mostly just to enjoy, watching the game without having to break down what they're doing, and so
He wanted to watch it without me in his ear. Get to relax and watch the game finally.
Right, but it was nice to be able to get there and just kind of relax and enjoy it. So.
Was there a game you absolutely had to watch this weekend?
No, the West Virginia game was really one that just wanted to watch, but I don't think there was that many games that were just kind of like last week's Bama and A&M game that were just on my must see.
JW, is he saying that he actually gets in your ear when you're watching game film? Does that actually happen?
Oh yeah, that happens.
Everyone's been talking about the efficiency with the offense. Do you think the travel down to Morgantown this past week off is going to affect that at all?
I don't think so. I think this year so far, every time we've traveled, we've handled it the right way, and we've traveled well, and we've handled it like it's a business trip. And I think with the leadership we have on the team, and I think we'll continue to handle it traveling with success.
That reference to 300 that Jeremy just mentioned, were you part of that meeting, or was that before you got here, as far as just road mentality?
Yeah, I think it was before I got here, but I definitely can see where he's coming from, and when you're going on the road, there was actually my freshman year when we traveled to A&M. Yeah, my locker was right next to Joseph Randall's, and he looked at me and smiled right before we went out and said, he said 80,000 people here, want you to fail, and he said, how could that not make you want to play better, and how could that not make you want to fight for your brothers harder? And I think that just goes with the saying with what Jeremy said, that Gundy talked about 300. When you're going to go on the road and play against 50, 60, 70,000 who don't like you, want you to fail. as you can't get excited. You have to get excited for that. I mean, I mean, there's not a better feeling almost than to be able to go out there and shut up 70,000 people.
Coach, you've been in Oklahoma now for a while. You grew up back in the area of West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Ohio. What kind of comparisons can you draw on the people and their attitudes toward football, this part of the country versus the part you grew up in?
I think football is king in both parts of the United States, where I grew up in Ohio and here as well in this region. You know, from a recruiting standpoint, I think it's significantly different in this region with facilities, spring ball that high schools do, all those sorts of things. I think that's the biggest difference.
Coach, can you talk about Jeremy Smith? And it seems like he's almost going under the radar a little bit, but he's still doing very well.
Very consistent, and I'll tell you, Jeremy practices really hard, and he's great on the practice field, and that really correlates to production on Saturdays. So he's working hard at it all throughout the week, and then Saturday's payday for him. So he's a great leader. He holds onto the ball very well. He understands pass protections. He's a complete back.
Mike, you were talking about recruiting. I'm curious, with the extra opportunities for kids to play and be involved in football in this part of the country compared to other parts of the country, do you sense that players arrive at college with maybe a better grasp for the nuances of the game because they're exposed so much?
I think that's true. I also think the coaching in this region is spectacular, so I think they're getting coached up real well and that sort of thing. And I think all those things, when you take into account those factors, they all add up to maybe a little bit of a greater learning curve for the players that come from this area, possibly.
Going back to Robert's question for just a minute, I'm going to elaborate on that. Has there been one or two or three things that have just jumped out at you and impressed you when you arrived at Oklahoma State University?
Well, I think the first thing, and I said this several times before, I don't care where you come from, I think when you step into these facilities, there's a wow factor to it. And I think that was the first thing that really stood out. And then we got right into observing workouts in the wintertime and the amount of athletes that we have and the quality athlete that we have and what Coach Glass does in the strength and conditioning department is impressive. Those were the things that really initially stood out.
Have you been in that stadium to see it yet? West Virginia Stadium?
I have not.
Coach, you said earlier that you guys stress red zone efficiency. Everybody wants to score in the red zone, wants to score touchdowns. What makes a good team in the red zone, and what's made you guys good so far?
A good kicking game is very important in the red zone. Taking care of the football, obviously. Those sorts of things are important, and I think striving towards balance. I think when you can pass the ball and run the ball equally, you give yourself the best chance, and the defense can't lean in one direction or another. So balance is key. A good kicking game and ball security are keys in the red zone.
J.W. Dana was only here about a year. What in your mind is the lasting impressions that he's left on this program?
Just the offense we still run, is the offense that he brought here. I think that's one thing that that's kind of all he's kind of got left now is he's got his offense that we run, and even then, we've tweaked it a bunch and we've added our own nuances over the years. So.
Did he recruit you directly?
He did.
Okay.
Mike, you mentioned your dad getting a chance to come to the game at the top. Just what type of impact did he have on you, football-wise, just as a kid? And I guess how cool was it that he's going to get to?
Well, he coached me, and I'm sure Jay's in a very similar situation with his father. My dad was my coach growing up, and he's very supportive, and pushed me, and at the same time put his arm around me. So it wasn't like he was one of those dads that was always hounding me. He was there to pick me up when I was down and that sort of thing, and he was my biggest fan. So he's been real big for me growing up.
Mike, did you say he takes care of his mom?
Yes, she's 104.
I was going to say, how old is she? Wow,
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, he's 71. She's 104.
JW, I've seen it a little bit on social media, but it seems like you and Charlie Moore and Josh Stewart are kind of goofy off the field. Y'all have a lot of fun together. Is that accurate?
That's very accurate. That's accurate with a lot of guys on the team. We've gotten to a point where everyone's so comfortable with each other, and we've kind of just meshed together. And in the locker room, everyone's so goofy with each other, and and it's hard not to be when you want to go out there and have success with guys and treat it like a business, but at the same time, you got to have fun with it. The sport's fun. And you got to go have fun, and these guys, we don't hang out with really anybody else other than the team. So we've gotten to a point where we can just do everything together and be goofy around each other. So.
Would you say that you have almost two different personalities on the field, down to business, running the offense, in the locker room, the jokester, I guess?
Oh, yeah. And I think, that's with a lot of guys just because, we go out there and as soon as we step on the field, it's time to go to work and it's time to strap it on and perform. But then when you get in the locker room, you gotta have you can't just be business all the time, and you gotta relax and be able to have fun.
Who tries to be funny and really isn't?
Probably me.
Oh, I don't know. We've got. I'd probably go Josh. He tries. He thinks he's funny, but I don't know.
At the time Coach Holgerson was recruiting you, if you ask these people here, they're going to say that Dan is a pretty interesting guy. When he was recruiting you, did you think he was a pretty interesting guy?
That's a pretty accurate assumption. He was a character when people talk about his coaching style and then recruiting. He was definitely a lot of fun to get recruited by and talk to, and I know he's a great coach. So, I mean that's definitely a pretty accurate way of.
You didn't play against him last year. I believe Clint made his first start. Did you kind of miss not getting a chance to play against Dana last year?
I just miss being able to play. That's the biggest thing. I don't really care who I'm playing against or who's on the other side of the field. It's just as long as if I'm hurt and not getting to play, then that's the biggest thing I was upset about.
Coach Yurcich, are there lighthearted moments at practice?
Sure. I think anytime you find some times to let go a little bit and enjoy the moment a little bit. Sure. They're fleeting though.
Mike, a lot of talk about the red zone efficiency and success, but you've preached this from the beginning. Your ball security has been nearly perfect. Talk about how happy you are with that, because that's making good decisions as well as doing it right.
And a lot of it, you kind of feel like you're in the dugout right now. It's the eighth inning. You don't want to talk about that no-no. You know what I mean? You don't want to talk about that no-hitter. So, it's good. We got to keep it up. Got to continue to work at it. Blah, 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 But, it really comes from our head coach down. I mean, it's something that he's preached the whole time. From my interview the first time I met him to all the way down through this morning, talking about ball security and snatching the ball and, putting the eagle claw on the football and tucking it away. It's something we do every day. Our assistant coaches do a great job of communicating and facilitating drills that help us to where Saturday it's just habit. It's muscle memory. And that stuff comes throughout the week, and it comes with effort. And our players do a good job of understanding those fundamentals and working hard at them.
It came up in your interview?
Ball security?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Don't worry.
Yeah, that'd be good. I need that.
That's probably fake. Hey, Mike, does tempo help you even more in the red zone?
Yeah, I think so. Absolutely. You talk about substitution, goal line defense, substituting guys in, and by the end of the drive, you're usually in the red zone, or you like to be. So, again, they're at the top end of being tired, right? So, that's really when you see the culmination of your turbos, your tempos, and then they're exhausted, and you wear them out, and that's the end of it.
JW, a lot's been talked about your toughness and just that attribute of your game. Kind of a weird question, but what's the worst pain you've ever felt in your life physically, and how did you work your way through that?
I don't know. I think I hurt my elbow back in my sophomore year at high school, and that hurt. I was out like 6 weeks, but I mean, I couldn't tell you the worst pain I've ever felt. I would say it's probably not on the football field. I haven't been hurt that often on the football field. I think I've only had 2 serious injuries and
keep knocking.
Yeah. But no, I really couldn't go back, and I don't know. But I know working through it's a mental thing. No matter how physical the pain is, it's always a mental thing, and you can tell. I mean, it can hurt as bad as it wants, but you always just got to tell yourself that it's going to be fine. You're going to get better. You can push through it. So
there was something off the field that you can recall?
Yeah, I was climbing a fence and my shoelace got caught and fell down, and I was hanging for a second, and it was a real high fence, and when I fell, like my shoelace came untied and I caught with both my wrists and broke both wrists. I was a first grader.
Are you walking around with two casts on your
I did. Yeah. Yeah.
That's cool.
It is funny.
It's funny now.
Unless you're the offensive
People sign
coordinator.
Don't do that.
No.
People sign one cast or both casts in your first grade classroom.
That was both casts.
Nice.
How much pain was the knee last year when you got hurt?
It really wasn't that much pain. I think the adrenaline had a lot to do with it. I didn't want to come off the field, and it wasn't bad enough to where I had to come off the field. And the next day probably hurt worse than actual, being on the field. So.
Robert. I turned mine down. I learned my lesson, okay? Wow, nice ring.
I think they want to. I think our guys embrace that and they understand that's who we are and that's an edge and that's something that we can really take advantage of. So I think that our players get it, embrace it, and it becomes part of who they are.
What's your biggest concern going into game today?
The same things. Make sure we travel well. Make sure we're focused, concentrated on. Those sorts of things that you can control. Short yardage calls, red zone calls. Making understand we know our package coming out of the end zone, situational football. Those are my biggest concerns. Things that we can't control.
How comfortable do you feel now calling plays than game one?
It's about the same level, probably a little bit more comfort, just because it's 3-4 games in now, and you understand a little bit more of the communication process. But we did a good job prepping for game one, so there really were no surprises. So that comfort level just naturally grows with the amount of games that you have in.
This might be a better question for JW, but since they haven't used a camera on you in the booth much, how expressive are you when you're calling plays? Are you pretty quiet?
I don't know. That's the last thing that's going through my mind on 3rd and 10 is how am I going to look calling this play? Probably, I don't know.
You don't take selfies while you're
Nah, it didn't happen. I don't know. I'm sure my wife, if she sees me on TV picking my nose, she'll make sure I don't do that again.
Deb, I have a question for you. You went from UTSA, you were 24 and 27, 326 yards, to Lamar, where you were, you were 17 and 30 and about 181 yards. What can you take from your performances on those 2 days in preparing for West Virginia this weekend?
And you got to look at the good and you got to look at the bad. I mean, you got to see what you did well and continue to grow on that, and then the things that you didn't do as well, you definitely got to correct those and you got to move on. You can't, once you watch the game film the next day, that game's in the past. You don't need to look at it too much, and you just got to keep moving forward and play the next game.